Long before Camp Casey, before Abu Ghraib, before the Guantanamo detainees, before 9/11 itself, Scott Ritter was on the ground as the Chief Weapons Inspector for the United Nations Special Commission in Iraq. A former major in the U.S. Marines, Ritter had spent several months of the Gulf War serving under General Norman Schwarzkopf with Marine Central Command headquarters in Saudi Arabia. In 1991, Ritter joined the United Nations Weapons Inspection Team, or UNSCOM, serving for the balance of the decade. He took part in 52 inspections missions, 14 of them as chief. Scott's latest book is Iraq Confidential, his new title from Nation Books, which charts the disillusionment of a patriot who came to realize that in its zeal for regime change, his own government sought to undermine weapons control in the Middle East. And to conduct tonight's conversation, and perhaps to endure some cross-examination himself, we're delighted to welcome legendary investigative reporter Seymour Hersh. He is, of course, the author of the stunning series in the New Yorker magazine on the use of torture by U.S. military and intelligence services in the wake of 9/11. And I should add that Sy was the winner of this year's Ridenhour Award, given by the Nation Institute and the Fertel Foundation, in memory of Ron Ridenhour, who played a pivotal role in Sy's own groundbreaking reporting on the My Lai massacres during the Vietnam period. The President of the United States based his justification of the invasion of Iraq on the existence of weapons of mass destruction on Iraqi soil and the involvement of Saddam Hussein in the attacks of 9/11. Senior administration officials have repeatedly denied the use of illegal and inhuman treatment of detainees at various U.S. installations around the globe. Mainstream American media has generally parroted these assertions and denials. Because of the courageous work of the two fearless individuals with us tonight, the world now knows the truth. Please welcome Scott Ritter and Seymour Hersh.
What I'm going to do, since make sure if you can't hear me, do yell as if I have to tell you. What I'm going to do is just ask Scott a series of questions, and I've read his book a couple of times, basically we're going to try and have some fun. Consider Scott and I your little orchestra playing on the deck of the Titanic as it goes down, because we're all in grave trouble here. So Scott, to begin, before we even talk about how we got to where we are, in terms of where we are, the critical question is, the way I look at it, my own personal view is we have two options in Iraq. We can get all our troops out by midnight tonight, A, and option B, we can get them all out by tomorrow night at midnight. And so I wonder where you sit on that. What's your view?
Well, you know, I view that Iraq is a nation that's on fire. I mean, there's a horrific problem that faces not only the people of Iraq, but the United States and the entire world about what's happened in that country. And the fuel that feeds that fire is the presence of American and British troops. This is widely acknowledged by the very generals that are in charge of the military action in Iraq. So the best way to put out the fire is to separate the fuel from the flame. So I'm a big proponent of bringing the troops home as soon as possible. Today's the best day we're going to have in Iraq. Tomorrow's going to be worse, and the day after that's going to be even worse. But we also have to recognize that, you know, one of the reasons why we didn't move to Baghdad in 1991 to take out Saddam was that there was wide recognition that if you get rid of Saddam and you don't have a good idea of what's going to take his place, that Iraq will devolve into chaos and anarchy. Well, we've done just that. We got rid of Saddam, and we have no clue what was going to take his place. And so simply pulling the troops out is only half of the problem. I think there has to be another half of the equation, which is dealing with three critical issues that have emerged since we invaded. A, the Shia. And I'm not talking about the mainstream Shia of Iraq. I'm talking about this political elite that's pro-Iranian that has conducted a coup d'etat, so to speak. They're running the government today. B, the Sunni. We took a secular bulwark against the expansion of radical anti-American Islamic fundamentalism, and we've radicalized them themselves. And if we just pull out and leave the situation as it is, we've turned the Sunni heartland, the Sunni triangle, into a festering cesspool of anti-American sentiment. It's the new Afghanistan, the new breeding ground for al-Qaeda. And then one that nobody talks about in the media is the Kurds. We somehow have given the Kurds this false sense that they're going to have an independent homeland. And yet our NATO ally, Turkey, has said this will never happen. And if we allow the Kurds to move forward towards independence, we're compelling the Turks to radical military intervention at a time when Turkey has just been invited to enter into a 15-year negotiation with the European Union about becoming a member of the European community. If the Turks move against the Kurds, that negotiation's over, which means that Turkey has been rejected by Europe and will be heading towards the embrace of radical anti-American Islam. So it's not just about getting the troops out. We have to recognize that there are three huge issues ongoing in Iraq that affect the national security of the United States, and we need a policy to address these. But keeping our troops in Iraq is not part of that policy.
How do you get them out? How quickly? What do you think about that?
The quicker the better. I mean, I'd leave it up to military professionals to determine how you reduce perimeters. There's some areas of the country that you can just literally up and run. But we have a significant force in place. We have significant infrastructure in place. And we have an active insurgency that would take advantage of any weaknesses. But I guarantee you this. If we went to the insurgents, and I do believe that we're having some sort of interaction with the insurgents today and said, we're getting out of here, all attacks would stop. They'd do everything they can to make sure that the road out of Iraq was as IED-free as possible.
A lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people, this is an administration, one of the things that's always remarkable to me in terms of how the press doesn't push certain issues, and the Congress, and admittedly on any given day, it's in my view of the Congress is that, or the Senate in particular, they're you know, you can't decide whether they're supine or prone, but they're down. And so we've had a, you know, along with the Democratic Party, so we've really had a serious problem. But how, a very wise man said to me the other day, somebody that knows the Middle East well, knows the Shia well, he says, you don't even understand your peril. He said, speaking about our country here and this administration, he said, the goal no longer is to remove us out of Iraq. The goal now is to get us out of the Middle East.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think we want to get out of the Middle East until we got some serious issues that Hurricane Katrina has highlighted. Our addiction to oil. And until we solve this addiction, we are going to be interacting with the Middle East. And I don't think it's a matter of...
No, what I actually meant was that it's, the Shia want us out.
No, I'm saying that, but somebody clapped about maybe that's a good thing for us to get out of the Middle East. I don't think it's a good thing for us to get out of the Middle East. I think we have a responsibility to our own citizens and indeed to the world to leverage the enormous good that our country represents into doing good in the Middle East. You know, American presence doesn't have to be negative in its connotation. Today, thanks to the Bush administration, when we say an American presence in X country or Y country, it generally has a negative connotation because the Bush administration doesn't have the best interest of the world or even the American people in mind when they carry out a certain course of action. But I do believe that we have to be concerned about this Shia concept. And I would even go further and call it an Iranian concept, where the Iranians are saying that we can take advantage of the serious missteps that the United States has made vis-a-vis Iraq to reassert Iran or Persia as the dominant power in the Middle East. And unfortunately, if we continue to stay the course, as the Republicans in the Bush administration speak of, and indeed many Democrats, including Hillary Clinton and others who aspire to national leadership, stay the course plays right into the Iranian hands.
Needless to say, this isn't a debate. Well, it is too bad, but